Hi, welcome to Bringing It Home. Today I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks on how to approach probably one of the most popular product marketing take-home assignments. My name is Perelman. I am the Director of Product Marketing at Seytful. I have almost a decade of product marketing experience in ad tech, hospitality tech, data science, data analytics, cyber, and feel free to add me on LinkedIn after the event. Before we get started, I tried to make this interactive. So if you guys could take out your phones and go to menti.com and type in the code that's on the top of the screen. I'll give you a disclaimer as I tried this yesterday and there were a little bit of bugs. So like if you guys have a problem answering questions, it's not the end of the world. And sometimes I talk really fast. So if I talk too fast, please feel free to raise your hand. So this code will show up on every slide. So I'll go ahead and start. My first question, and this is for you guys to answer on your phone, is from all of you that have gone and done interviews, how many of you have had product marketing take-home assignments, marketing take-home assignments? How many of you guys actually enjoyed it? Go ahead and type it on here. I see we have 2 liars in the room so far. Yeah, I thought so. They're very challenging. So my next question for you guys is, and this is also for you to write down in your phones, is what comes up when you think of product marketing home assignments? I'll give you guys a minute to fill this out. And everything is anonymized. There's no wrong answers. You'll see the answers appear on the screen as you type them in. Amen to that. They always say 2 hours and it takes 14. I have 10 more seconds. Yeah, there's a lot of stressful experience, time-consuming. Oof. I'm going to go to the next slide. So when you go to interview for a PMM job, there's a lot of chances you're going to get different kinds of assignments. Like you can get a competitive analysis, which requires you to research and deep dive into a major competitor in any given market. And this report would cover aspects such as product offerings, unique selling propositions, marketing tactics, strengths and weaknesses. You have a product launch plan where you need to develop a comprehensive plan for launching a new product. And this assignment might involve market research, audience segmentation, setting a timeline, crafting the messaging, planning promotional strategies. You might have to create product messaging and do a product messaging framework. And this should include a clear value proposition, key benefits, supporting proof points, and possibly even marketing copy. You might have to develop a case study which showcases the success of a product or campaign. It needs to have the problem statement, the solutions implemented, the results achieved, and the key takeaways. Today, I'm going to focus on the big one, which is the go-to-market strategy. So what is a go-to-market strategy? Think of a GTM strategy as a game plan for getting your products or services out there where your future customers can see them. It's about nailing down the best way to make your offering shine, finding the right tactics to get the word out, and planning out the moves you'll make to convince folks to buy what you're selling. And it's more than just advertising. It's about figuring out the right things to do to get your hands in the stuff of the people who need it most. And so in your opinions, from your guys' experience, what do you think is included in a GTM strategy? Go ahead and write this down on your phones. If it froze, refresh it. If it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, legit everything. Cool. Good answer so far. Amazing. Messaging, positioning, everything the brand needs from bottom to top, segmentation, messaging, positioning, promo and distribution strategy. Very good. So I think, in my opinion, the fundamental things that are included in a GTM strategy, consists of like the value proposition, some positioning, messaging, target segmentation and the target audience, distribution channels, marketing and promotion, launch plans, sometimes even the post-launch evaluation and optimization. I'm going to talk about what I think are the most important aspects of this list. And before you start anything with a GTM or a product launch plan, you need to think of tiering. What is tiering? Tiering is when you need to know that not all products or feature releases are created equal. And in product marketing, there's 3 major tiers. There's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. And everything that I'm showing you today is stuff that I created for assignments or stuff that I use on my day-to-day or monthly basis at work. It's all stuff that's applied every single day. A lot of it, you'll see methodologies that I created too. But this is very popular. Tier 1 is a huge release. It takes months to get ready. It takes maybe half a year, and it's much more rare. There's PR and videos and social and brand and noise and noise and noise. So it's when you enter a new product. It's when you introduce a product or feature that changes the value of the value proposition of the company in some way, or introduce a new product to existing markets. That's tier 1. Tier 2 is what most product marketing managers deal with on a day-to-day basis. Tier 2 is for reducing customer churn, new functionality impacting mostly existing users, closing competitive gaps, increasing product adoption. And tier 3 is the one for power users, mostly subtle design changes and stuff like that, things that don't fit into tier 1 or tier 2. And the reason that it's so important to understand what tier you're targeting or what tier the product or feature is in is because you can understand which stakeholders, channels, assets are relevant for that specific tier like that. So this is tier 1, this is tier 2, this is tier 3. The Menti is covering it. You can see that with the tier 1, mostly everything is true on here. Tier 2, a little bit less trues, more falses, and tier 3 has the most falses, which means that there's the least activities. So tiering is super, super important. Now, my next question for you guys, if you could answer on your phone, hopefully it works still, is what do you think value proposition and positioning means? I see value for customer, very good. Perfect. Amazing. All of these are really on point so far. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. So a value proposition is a clear statement that communicates the unique benefits or values your product or service offers to its customers. And the positioning is the process of establishing and managing how your brand is perceived in the eyes of your target customers, include the advantages compared to the compared to your competitors. Now, there's a couple of different ways to create value propositions and to understand the positioning and the statements. I'm going to show you guys a couple of templates and hacks that I do. So the first thing that I do is that I use 3 major questions. Who is it for? What does it do? And why is it different? And these three questions are something that any product marketeer needs to be able to answer. Who is it for is your target audience. What does it do? As a PMM, you need to be able to explain your product or service very, very simply. And why is it different? This is done through market research or competitive analysis. These are the 3 fundamental questions to value proposition, in my opinion. You can add more how it works, why now, why us, but these need to be there. And when you're able to answer these questions, you can develop a very, very strong value proposition that speaks to your target audience, lets them know what you do and why they need to use you. Another way to do this is through positioning and some competitive analysis. And so this is an assignment I did a couple of years ago, and I made up a competitive analysis, like all the details in here I made up, but you need to look at the truth, and you need to see what's really going on with product offerings, with features, with service, with ease of use. And sometimes you won't win everywhere. Sometimes the other products or companies, they offer better service, they have better features, they have maybe a better product, but you need to figure out where you win and where your competitive edge is. As you can see, where we went on the bottom. So that's really, really important. This, because we're sending the slides to you afterwards, I'm not going to go over this slide, but this is something Figma came out with for startup messaging. What type of messages should be part of your GTM program? I won't go over this, but it's pretty easy to understand. The next part I'm going to talk about is target audience and customer segmentation. This is one of my favorites. And it's really important that you segment your target audience, and I understand them based on their demographics, their psychographics, other relevant factors, and it's important that all your sales and marketing are tailored to your target audience. I'm sure you guys have seen this slide before, whether you've seen variations or nuances of it, always with the picture of the person, and it says common objections like expectations, motivations, where do they get their information from, what type of technologies do they use. This is a standard customer persona template. I'm going to show you what I do, which is a little bit different. So I do something with a table and I do a persona breakdown. I'll show you guys a bigger picture. Every company I go to, whether I freelance or full-time, this is the first thing that I do when I get in, is that I create a persona development table, which breaks down. This one was for a company I worked at years ago that had 4 major audiences. Advertisers was one of them, and there were multiple roles. And the reason that I keep all the roles the same and I color code it is because a lot of the messaging and the use cases and the pains overlap. It's very redundant to go and write this stuff over and over again for roles. So what's important here are these 3 columns. First, we have the pain. What is the pain that this user faces on their day-to-day basis? What's stopping them from reaching their goals and doing their job better? The use case is how are they going to use my product, my service, to overcome this specific pain? And the benefit, which is also the messaging, is what is the benefit that comes out of using this specific use case for this specific pain? This is my holy grail. You can ask anybody I've ever worked with when I create this stuff. I go back here, and this is the messaging. I take stuff here, repurpose it immediately for websites, landing pages, one-pagers, videos, emails. Everything you need to know is on this document. So that's one way I do it, and another way that I've started developing it is also added a new column which talks about the key features that are relevant for this specific use case. So I'm able to talk about the product and the benefits in a much more coherent and cohesive fashion. Next, I'm going to talk about marketing and promotion. So marketing and promotion is about how are you going to promote your activities to your target audience? How are you going to create awareness about your offering? And this is done through a simple table. It's like a little launch plan. It talks about what are the assets and tasks, what channels are relevant, which stakeholders are relevant, and what's the due date. It's a nice way to manage your projects, right? It's a very high level, very simple way to do project management. You can also break it down by content deliverables, like what is the type of asset I need to make and what are examples of those assets. Saying blogs isn't enough. Like what are the blogs that I'm going to write? What are the videos I'm going to create? What is the landing pages going to be about? Emails and so forth. And finally, I'm going to talk about the launch plan. And the launch plan is pretty much your roadmap on how you're going to deliver the product or service to the market. And this is a little bit different than what I showed you before. Before, I focused on the marketing and promotions. I focused solely on content and assets. Here, there's a lot more about actions. I have that I need to check in with affiliates 1 week before, that I need to make sure things are launched. This is a way to manage your project additionally. But yeah, it's a lot more about actions. And another way to show this, another example of showing this, is to do a release process. How are you going to break it down? You can see that I don't talk about content at all here. I talk about setting the positioning and answering, making sure the beta user testing begins, doing sales training by groups, stuff like that. So I talked a bit fast, but do you guys have any questions? Yeah. For the you'd like to know for the take-home exam how I would format the GTM strategy according to this. So that's a good question. I should have actually included an example of a GTM. The GTM needs to include. I'm going to go back to one of the beginning slides. Here, I missed it. The GTM strategy needs to include your target audience, your value proposition and your messaging, the marketing and promotions. It needs to include a launch plan. If you are going to like involve sales training and do sales enablement, it should involve that too. The GTM strategy it's very robust, very holistic. So yeah, it needs to include pretty much everything that you see on here. The reason that I wouldn't include pricing and packaging and marketing analysis because pricing and packaging, I've done PMM for 10 years, never really had to deal with it. And market analysis, market research, you deal with this anyways. So I would do it in a similar order to this.
But I guess my question is like, they're gonna say, hey, it's Sunday, and then hey, please send this to me on Tuesday, and I don't work with this company.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how deep do you go with the research and like giving the information? Because it's like, I feel like I know what you're talking about here, but like, how do I actually make that presentation that I don't spend 48 hours to figure it out?
So he wanted to know, he says he understood the template, but like how do you actually get all the research and market research and product and industry research done and out of the way? That's the part I hate assignments. I won't lie, like I've had interviews and they've asked me to do assignments and I told them no on the spot and I left. Like I really don't agree with the way a lot of assignments are done. I just want to make that clear. Listen, if you have the templates and you understand the methodology, it's so much easier to do it. Like if you have, like, let me show you guys my this slide, right? If you're doing if you're trying to understand, write the messaging, the positioning, and trying to understand your target audience, doing this, in my opinion, is much more effective than doing this. Writing out my approach to the persona is much more effective than doing the generic templates. And here I understand, okay, so pain, so I need to look for their specific pains. Like this directs me to what I should be looking for. Instead of like searching for everything and trying to find gold in like the dirt that I'm picking, this takes me directly to the gold. So having a methodology and a template that you're working off of or knowing what you need to look for will shorten it by like 50%. Yeah.
I think it's maybe a follow-up question. When I have an assignment, then I feel like there's so many templates and there are so many websites and information and courses that I don't really know how to choose and what's going to be the best template. So I really appreciate you having this here. I'm actually trying to figure out how can I take this to my next assignment and really use which templates you recommend and...
Well, everything on here, so you want to know which templates I recommend for like for product marketing assignments and stuff like that. Like, so once again, everything on here is going to be in your hands. I recommend you look through it and you understand why I do what I do and why I created. It's a story. That's all it is. A GTM is a story. And once you figure out the flow and the story, that's the hardest part. Is making this presentation, I know everything on here, but to understand how I was going to present it to you guys, the flow in which I was going to do it, the approach in which I was going to do it, that was the hardest part. So don't use templates as they are. Use templates and adapt them. Take multiple templates, adjust them, and create them to make a story, a version of a story that you understand that makes sense to you. And then take it from there. That's my opinion. Yeah.
A couple of thoughts. First of all, there's so much to do, and as the gentleman said here a moment ago, with 48 hours, which is sometimes the time frame, it's impossible to do everything. So my question is the hiring manager typically looking to see that you're familiar with the whole process like you had in that previous slide, where you know all the steps and you're basically describing it? Or would you rather, do you think it's better to pick one, let's say the personas, and do a deep dive? And one last question is, how important is it to be right? So let's say it's a totally different industry.
Yeah.
You don't know it at all. You don't have the time really to it'll take 2 days just to learn enough to be able to say something intelligent. So how much does it actually have to be correct in your opinion?
Okay, so the first question was about, sorry, you asked me 3 questions. The first question was, should you care more about the content or should you care more about the actual content or the methodology? Okay, so it depends on hiring managers. I think imbecile hiring managers will care more about the content than the methodology. Like I've had people interview me. given me a day and a half to do a GTM. And then they expect me to know everything and do all the competitive analysis and and I'm just like, F you, no, I'm not gonna do that. I don't work for you and I don't work for free. I'm gonna show you what I'm capable of doing. I know how to do this. And sometimes I'll take examples that aren't really even relevant for that company. Like I'll show them this. And I'll be like, this is what I can do. I'm not going to do it for you because it's gonna take like a week to do it for you and I don't work for you for free, so. In my opinion, it's much more important to know the methodology and to know the reasoning behind what you're doing than to actually go and do the applied stuff. But once again, it just depends on the manager. You asked me a second and third question. I don't know if I answered them in that question. Yeah. Okay. I don't.
Add one small thing that I used to do for these type of tasks that they require so much work. I would just add another slide with things I suggest doing moving forward. So like, I would scope out what I could do, and I would also say like, I only gave this assignment for 4 or 6 hours. This is what I could do within 4 to 6 hours. I'm clear about it, and then later on in the last slide, nothing that they require, but I would just add, here's what I would do if I had a quarter, 2 quarters, etc.
Right, because I asked you, would it be good to drill down just on ICPs, on personas, for example, and do that really, really well, and say, here's the rest of the things that need to be done, but you can't do it.
Yeah, I think so, and it's also good just to like have a repository, have a portfolio. Like in my G Drive, I have like hundreds of assets, like tons of this stuff, like from all the jobs I've done. And if you have time over a week and you want to work on your own presentation, your own GTM strategy that you like either make up for a product or like go look for a company, make up your own GTM strategy and then like work really hard on it. Make sure it's like 100%. Make sure it's as detailed as possible. And if you can't deliver on time, show them what you have. Like it's the assignments. Yeah. I'm not. People in there's people in here.
I can also suggest something like I belong in the other category where I believe in home assignments. Like I think home assignments are important, and I think over the top home assignments are also important in their own way because they are a natural screening process, and because I've had experience with candidates who I was blown away with, like at the conversation level, but just fell flat when it came to doing the assignment. And it wasn't because it was like long or hard. It was just their approach to it. What I found from home assignments that I did is that first of all, I work on the home assignment with the intention of getting the job. Honestly, it's kind of a given, but sometimes we don't really do it. Like we do the home assignment with like, okay, here's another one of these. Like, I try not to, I guess, like sort of stack 5 of them in a row. And if I do an assignment, I think, okay, like, will this be useful for me in my first 90 days? Will this be something I will draw from, I will use from, will I copy slides from this? And then I did. So if you treat this not as a nuisance or something, or like free labor, it's a little bit of, like, I will be the first to do it. Yes, it requires a lot of work on your own expense with no clear outcome of it. But I just try and treat like, okay, I'm trying to imagine if this is something that I'm doing on my day-to-day, will I be able to use it? And that usually comes across, and like that, those are usually the tasks that pass. Like that's from my experience.
Cool. Anything else And I have business cards and stickers, and feel free to add me or contact me if you have any questions. Like I love this stuff. I'm really passionate about it. I hate assignments, but I like my work.